Welcome to another Quantum Conversation, brought to you by acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and I invite you to sit back as we enter the quantum realm, that space of the greater part of you. It is your connection to infinite possibilities, infinite potential, and infinite mastery. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We are talking about a very sacred process today. This is the birthing process, and my guest is a sacred birth keeper, and she's here to share with us on how we find peace through our family lineage. She's going to explain a family constellation approach. This is very interesting because some light workers have struggles with the families that we chose to incarnate it with. But what we're learning here is the more that we heal this, the more that we're at peace with it, maybe the more that we recognize it, the more empowered we are, and we are not controlled by the outer triggers. My guest is Julia Sahalie. She is a sacred birth keeper, and she works with helping her clients resolve early trauma imprints. And this happens before, during, and after birth. So we are so pleased to welcome this beautiful soul here who teaches people how to self-regulate in the face of everything, life's triggers. Hello, Julia.
Hello, Lauren. Good to be with you.
I am fascinated by the work that you do. All right, you work with hypnotherapy as well. You're certified in past life, interlife, and neonatal regression. And as we're talking about this, why is it so important for one's path forward?
Well, because when we focus on our family and the imprints that our family has passed down to us really as unconscious beliefs, and we carry these into our lives, our ancestors really exist within us. I mean, they create this overlay in our DNA, and we carry everything that they've experienced, everything that they've gone through is within us. And it leaves like these cellular memories in our DNA, these marks of their history, and provides information about our lives and our own behavior and our own connection with them. And so much of our life struggles and our behaviors and our patterns have to do with these unconscious beliefs that have been passed down through us, that carry us out into every facet and area of our life. I just came across this study about a week ago that was so fascinating. Alan Stofe, I think it was named, the University in Minnesota, and he was studying these families and how parents interacted with their children. And then he followed up on those children and videotaped them interacting with their children. And then he took the videos and put them side by side. And what was so interesting and fascinating was to find out that even this next generation of parents grew up and intended, I think that we all have these intentions to be better and different than our own parents in their parenting styles. But when they put the videos side by side, their gestures, their body language, the way that they responded to the cues of their children were almost identical in the way that they behaved and interacted with their children.
Wow. Yes. I think there's other parents who've actually caught themselves acting like their parent, one of their parents. I know I have. At one point, I'm like, oh no, I've become my mother. So this is interesting, you know? Okay, so that's people that we know, that obviously they know in our lives. But when we're talking about ancestors, this is even those who we do not know. And these are unconscious beliefs. So there's good things, there's great traits, but it's really the unconscious beliefs, fear-based beliefs, right, that we really have to get at. And I want to share something very interesting. This is rather personal. My sister, she and we have the same dad, different mothers. And we never knew each other really growing up, but now we do. And it's funny that our husbands talk to each other about us and say how so much alike we are, these traits, right? Maybe there's certain rigidity or fear based behaviors that we both have. And wow. So isn't that fascinating? I mean, it's there whether we are aware of it or not.
Absolutely. I talked with a woman not very long ago who reconnected with her adopted mother. She never knew her, and found out that they had all of these incredible common interests together.
Her birth mother,
Her birth mother, she
her
got in
birth mother,
contact with.
yes.
Yes, her birth
Mhm.
mother in her early 30s, didn't know anything about her, found out they had all of these similar interests and likings and attributes. And she wasn't even raised by her birth mother. It was incredible that she was able
Yes.
to discover those things about her that she found in common.
Yes,
Absolutely.
it fills a great void in a way. It really does. It fills something. Okay, so that's really interesting. So let's talk first about you. We're going to go deeper into how we can
Mm.
work to heal this and what happens with these imprints before, during, and after that we're born. But your personal story, how did you get involved in
Mm.
this sort of work?
Yeah, so I was actually born and raised in the Mormon faith, and I grew up surrounded in a very predominantly Mormon culture. If anybody who knows about the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the most primary fundamental doctrine of this church is families. Families is foundational and to everything, to building up the kingdom of God. And sealing families together throughout generations of time. This was very heavily indoctrinated and emphasized in me growing up, and from the time that I was born. And so it seemed to me like everybody else out there around me had these wonderful, beautiful, happy families, and we were kind of like the embarrassing, dysfunctional family. I had a couple of special needs brother and sister, and it was like I would go to church and we would talk about these very idyllic, happy families, but yet at home it was a different story. In these walls, there was violence and abuse, and when there wasn't that, there was a lack of attention from my parents, and there was just this incredible dichotomy between what we were striving to obtain and what was actually happening in my home. And I grew up with this narrative of, when I talk about unconscious belief, it was like a tape recording running in the back of my mind constantly. This idea that families can be together forever as long as we do all of these things and we meet all of these requirements and we do everything that we're supposed to and we work really hard and we prove our worthiness, we just might be able to get to live with God again. And there was this emphasis on trying to do everything right, and that fathers were the authoritarians who, and the where you were just supposed to do whatever the father said, and the mothers were expected to be submissive and give and give and give and nurture and put your needs aside. And I watched my mom kind of turn into this doormat, this victim, and so I longed for this happy family. So I just thought, well, I just need to live out this narrative better than my parents. And I was just going to do it better than them. And found myself reenacting so many of the same patterns that my parents played out in their life. And I saw this as I got older. I got to see how much pain that my dad was in. His mother died when he was only 11 years old, and his father, he joined the church when he was 18, and my grandmother was only 15, and my grandfather left behind a personal history. And one of the things that he said was how much he wanted to be a better father, unlike his father. And I remember hearing my dad say that, I'm going to be a better father than what my father was. And having these conversations with my younger brother, I'm going to be more engaged and more attentive than my dad was. And it didn't seem to matter how hard we tried to do everything right. It didn't address the core of these deep, deep wounds and these traumas that were just never addressed, and that they were coming out in these very unhealthy and dysfunctional ways. And then in my 30s, I got to a place where I felt like I was just crushing me. And I was just sacrificing to the point where I didn't even know who I was anymore. And I remember saying to myself, if this is what heaven is, then maybe I don't want it, because this really feels like hell to me. And I began to question this narrative, this story that I had been raised in, and ask myself, how much of this is really true? And that really was a turning point for me in a very personal spiritual awakening. And then I went to hypnotherapy school and got out of that environment that I was in, and, from being the good wife and the good mother, and to step outside of that and see another perspective, be supported by all of these wonderful people that were there to support me. And I had this session that they were giving to me that I was in, and I was role playing with my own mother, and I had an entire lifetime of anger and resentment was released in that moment, that I had pushed my mother aside. I was so angry at her, and it just all came out. I had this enormous catharsis, bawling my eyes out. And for the first time, Lauren, I could see my mother through her eyes, and I was able to have a sense of compassion for her and what she had been through, and a sense of compassion for myself because of the parts that I saw in her that I didn't like in myself. And it was an incredible healing experience. And I began to connect with my mother again. And I began to see from this higher perspective what had happened through these generations of time that had occurred through the traumatic experience of, my paternal line and his father and all of this anger that had come down. And I could begin to see from their eyes and to kind of walk in their shoes and to understand them and to understand my place in this family dynamic, and to be able to understand my role and my place and my design in all of this. Why would I choose to come in here and be a part of this? And from that time, I sought to really understand everything that I could about how we can prevent these dysfunctional patterns and behaviors from passing down onto my children, because my children were growing up and I was starting to see them play out some of these same types of behaviors. And I desperately wanted to change that and bring to them something far more resourceful and healing and warm and loving, that, the type of family that I always wanted to have, to be able to bring for them and to cut that cycle of abuse that was in our family. So that was my beginnings and my turning point. and how I come to really move into this work.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. When you asked the question, how much of this is really true? I mean, when you said that, it really, I could even feel a release in that. It really talks about our perception, isn't it? So it's like it's an incredible awareness to stop and look at ourselves and our behaviors and to recognize things that are programs and conditioning from our families, from society. And wow, what was that like for you then? How much of this is really true? Did it just dissolve?
It was picking, it was like picking parts away at a time when I had to stop and look at everything that I had grown up in. And there was this sense
Mhm,
of loyalty, of course, like there was this
mhm,
loyalty to my family. I don't want to turn my back on my family or turn my back on this culture that I had raised in and everybody and everything that I'd ever known. But there was this desire, this yearning that I had to understand the truth no matter what, because at that time, I felt like life had no purpose. It had no meaning. And until I could find the truth for myself, I just didn't, there wasn't a desire for me to continue um, living life. It became meaningless until I could really understand the truth of who I am, where I come from, and why I'm here.
yes. Beautiful. So that journey led you into this work that you've done on yourself and that you do now with others. So we're going to talk about what happens on you. You say that there are threads of consciousness that connect family members all across time and space and parallels. Can you talk more about this and how we come to recognize behaviors and patterns?
Well, we're all connected. Some people call it the universal field. We are connected, our spirits are all connected together, and we can connect with the consciousness of anyone that we desire to connect with, including our parents or our ancestors. So in the constellation approach, we're connecting through this field, and we can call on the consciousness of these individuals and connect with them in a way that helps us to understand who they are, why they are, and these patterns that were developed from a trauma at some point in time. Now, trauma, and I talk about a trauma, is it's not necessarily what happens to us, but it happens inside of us as a result of what happened to us. And so we really lacked the sufficient resources to be able to meet the challenges that we were faced at that time. And because of that, we developed these compensation survival strategies, and they absolutely served a necessary purpose in order to cope with something they couldn't cope because they didn't have the resources at the time. And we are here because of them. I mean, we are here on earth because they were able to survive, but then those compensation patterns end up getting passed down to us, and we carry them within us as cellular memories, and that actually exist in our DNA. These threads of consciousness are actually contained in our very bodies. And so that's why we respond in ways that we don't even think about so often. Like, oh my gosh, I just, like you said, I found myself acting like my mom. And where did that come from?
Mm.
And yeah, and so all these kinds of things that may have happened to them, persecution, things done against their will, any form of atrocities, if they didn't feel safe, then perhaps they may have compensated by not wanting to go outside of their comfort zone or to control their environments. And then we act out these patterns of behavior, often without even understanding or knowing why, but we are all connected to them biologically. And we've inherited not just these weaknesses, but also their strengths and their resiliency. We carry facets of that as well, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing to recognize within us, both the positive and the detrimental. So, a family constellation, you said the family constellation approach, we can connect with these ancestors. Can you tell us more about how that works?
Sure. The family constellation system was developed by his name is Herberger from Germany. Basically, what it is that an individual will connect with a ancestor or multiple ancestors, or even members of the family that are living or deceased. And usually this process is done in a group setting. So there would be other group members who would stand in and facilitate as proxy of these members of the family, which creates a constellation. And so they're standing in different physical proximity of the individual. And then we're just connecting to them in spoken word. And sometimes just the act of having someone stand in proximity to the person gives them a sense of their beingness and who they are as a person. And that's the part where we're connecting to the universal field. We get a sense and an idea and an understanding of who they are. And it gives us a chance to be able to give voice to our own experiences and to tap into the emotions and the physical experiences. And then in this supportive and sacred environment where you are held by caring and supportive people, we can actually recreate a new imprint. And I'm talking about a new imprint is being able to experience the resource that they didn't have when it was needed. It's about meeting a need that was unmet in the early beginnings. You can't really think your way to safety. You can't think your way to feelings of peace and love and joy. You have to actually experience them. And so it's a way to work with the body, to work with the underlying beliefs. What decisions did I make about myself? What did I decide about life? And to give an environment of safety to where you feel safe enough to be with those emotions and allow them to release through the body, because that's where they're stored, is in through the body. And then being able to understand from a higher perspective and to be able to look at things from a higher perspective in terms of what they were going through at that time, we can better understand why did things play out the way they did, and how do I fit into this role? Why did I choose these parents? Helps us to understand our place in the world. And that's what the family constellation approach does. It's an integrative approach. It's not about going in and getting rid of or trying to clear or cut or, cutting cords and releasing and letting go. I know people do focus on that, but this is an integrative approach where we bring forth with an expanded awareness, and to bring compassion and to bring the resources that were needed at that time to be able to create that new experience that now can contribute into your life in a positive and meaningful way.
Yes, an integrative process to help us become whole and to own it and to
Yes.
release it through the body. Cellular memories that we don't even know are there. Literally, we're walking around with a programmed body. So, would you say that the awareness, so this helps us become aware of these programs and the awareness of it, how much of the, let's call the workload of releasing this is in that awareness itself? Would you say like 70%, 80% is awareness, and then the rest would be holding on to when something triggers you? How would you put that?
I would say once the awareness comes, usually that could be around 70%, and then the rest just tends to trickle out after that.
See?
But a lot of it has to do with, being held in the experience, being witnessed and acknowledged. That is like the fundamental process. It's coming in and acknowledging what happened. And that's
Mm,
what brings the awareness. To say, I see you, I hear you, I witness you, that you had this experience. And in the process of acknowledging what happened, just boom, the awareness just opens up. And then it creates this opening within the body as well. And then the next level would be acceptance, accepting what is and being with what is without any moral judgment, without making it wrong, without saying, oh, I need to get rid of this. We're accepting it and bringing compassion. Compassion is so huge, and it opening up that container that builds safety. Everything else just happens right after that, and there's just no effort at that point. It's just like this huge release that happens, and there's really no trying once that level of awareness expands and opens, and the acknowledgement and coming to acceptance of what is.
yes, beautiful. So it may seem simple, but the big workload is the acknowledgement of and the witness to it. And look at how many years and decades go by with just the no acknowledgement, the no awareness of any of it. So thank you. That shares with us how important awareness is. Awareness, 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 a really key
Yeah.
element there, and why doing the work will really help us in so many ways, personally and collectively. Yes. All right. So
Absolutely.
is there, it seems like when you talked about the constellation approach and how you use, like on a group level, is there something you can do for the group or a meditation for the group for us to feel
Oh, yeah,
into? Okay, cool. That would be neat to
sure.
kind of see where we go and how we are led on this.
Okay. Well, if you could give me about maybe 10 or 12 minutes, I can take the listeners on the call on a little bit of a guided journey to tap in and connect with a particular ancestor that you might like to connect with. And so if you're able to, just give this your full attention. Just listen to the sound of my voice. Sit in a comfortable in a fully supported position. And if you're able to, you can close your eyes. If not, you can always come back and listen to this later in the replay. And just take in a nice, deep, slow, and cleansing breath in. Filling up your lungs and holding it for just a second. And then exhaling, gently closing your eyes if they're not already closed, if you're able to. And just let your shoulders sink down. And now place your attention at the top of your head and allow it to become a bright light of relaxation. And then take that feeling and imagine it as a warm, powerful wave of relaxation. And send that wave down through your entire body, from the top of your head all the way down to the tips of your toes. And letting go of every muscle, every nerve and fiber. And just allow yourself to relax very deeply now. Deeper and deeper relaxed. And simply continue to enjoy this deep sense of relaxation now. And know that as your body relaxes more and more fully, your mind too begins to relax. And when your mind is relaxed, you can simply receive all of the guidance and answers that you need. And just imagine with me now that you are walking along this wooded path of mulch, walking into an open clearing in a meadow. And the sun is beginning to recede behind the trees. And there awaits a sacred bonfire just surrounded by a grove of trees. And you feel the warmth of the fire as the air begins to cool slightly. And we ask and call forth our angels of protection to be with us now. And we feel the powerful presence of your angels as they wash you in love and surround the space in a shield of white light. And you're so safe, loved, and protected. Allow yourself to feel their protective presence. As only the most benevolent beings are here, sealing the door from any unwholesome and harmful energies. And here in this space, we call and invite any ancestors, living or deceased, who are relevant to the needed ancestral healing that you are wanting to shift today. It doesn't matter if you don't know their names or not quite sure exactly who they are. Just get a sense of who wishes to show up. Invite any of your children, living or deceased, to be part of the healing, to be here as well. We can also call in and invite the souls of your future posterity through the next 7 generations to stand before you. You can also imagine those you will influence and who they will influence through 7 generations. Your ancestors past 7 generations stand behind you, and your posterity 7 generations in front of you. And one of your special ancestors that come to you now, and bring a book. This is a book of your life and a book of your family lineage that is inscribed upon it. And as your ancestor opens the book, a holographic image appears to you in the sky like a movie screen, showing you bits and pieces of events through your family lineage. And upon this screen is shown to you the most needed and relevant information you need to know. Your ancestor taps you on the forehead 3 times to activate your ability to see and to know what is important. If you don't see anything, that is okay. Some people are better at sensing or knowing or even hear messages. Just allow yourself to be present like a radio apparatus that picks up the signals in the field. Everything is made clear now. Struggles, conflicts, the patterns, the lessons, and the blessings through the generations of time. Strategies for survival and the coping patterns, the wounded parts, the unmet needs. And take a moment to notice what they are as your awareness is now expanding. Gather up the harvest of all of these lessons and blessings that are being discovered here. Your ancestors, they tried to do the very best with what they knew, what they had, and give them the honor and the appreciation for bringing you life. You are here because they survived, and honor them for everything that you have learned, the opportunities to do better. And imagine one of your most relevant and significant ancestors is in front of you, about 4 feet. And as you connect with this ancestor, you may be feeling hesitation, anger, sadness, frustration, or even fear or excitement. And you notice the feelings that are arising and continue to breathe. Now take a closer look at this person. And in your mind's eye, see a picture of them unfolding. Begin to look at their heart. Begin to see them with the eyes of God, or as their higher self. Think about their life journey. Might there have been life experiences that they have had that made them the way they are? can you see how they may have suffered and unclear on how to resolve it? And can you have compassion as you look upon them, realizing that they walked a difficult journey? Perhaps their actions are a way of them trying to protect themselves. Continue to breathe as you observe this person. Begin to feel the image you have of them with light and see it glowing brighter. See them in their energetic space and recognize that you are in yours. Allow yourself to feel secure in your own body and in your own energy. And now ask yourself, is there anything that I really need to communicate with this person? What do they wish to communicate with you? And as Derek Rydell would often say, more than I want to fix, heal, control, manipulate, or make things other than what they are. I want to know the truth about who I am and why I am here. I want to know the truth that will set me free. What is the truth that will set you free? Free from your family patterns. What is the new truth that you would like to embody? And now one of your guides comes to you now. One of your ancestors provides an article of clothing or a jewelry or an object. It could be a robe, a shawl, any item, anything that is representing a whole new way of being. This could be an archetype of a person in which to take upon their character, or just simply an attribute such as courage or integrity. And as you are being adorned and graced with this new activation, just affirm to yourself, I humbly and gratefully receive whatever they have to offer you. And this grace light for that new energy that is for you. I stand before these witnesses this day as I covenant with myself, my ancestors, and the Most High, my willingness to receive and to integrate this activation throughout my entire body on all 4 levels of my being now. Having received more of myself today, and by the power of my I am presence, I accept my DNA as the access point for expressing the sovereign power of my unlimited divinity. And as you repeat these words, you are filled with creative power, expanding and reaching through your very DNA, activating into every generation of time, in every direction simultaneously, blessing, affirming, and consecrating. And this moment has been foreseen and foreordained for you to receive this healing and activation in behalf of your family line at this very pivotal moment in your life. And the angels sing, and all of your guides and ancestors sing a closing prayer over you, sealing these activations in the light and the fire of your own Holy Spirit, Christ, all time and space. It is done. It is done. It is done. There we go.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That was really integrative and quite beautiful. And it would be very interesting to hear from others what they experienced. It was incredibly healing. I'll share my experience and my understanding now that of the value of, or what happens when we relax so much or take a shamanic journey into that space, that very safe space. That is where we access the quantum field. And the information that we receive, it may not, we may think that it's just our imagination, but it is not. That is fascinating when we slow down enough to witness that. So I saw a couple of, when you were saying, feel the energy of the ancestor coming in, it was really interesting what I felt. And it was a bit of a sadness, and it was a bit of a weakness, and it was a bit of traits that I had witnessed in my mother, which actually I was angry about. So it actually made me a stronger person. So that was very interesting. But when we shifted it from to see the struggles of that person, and I think it was in my mother's lineage, several generations on the female side. And it was really fascinating to respect the space and the story of that person because I could feel a little resentment of it. Yes. And so that process for me was enabled me to transmute that feeling of resentfulness. Yes. Fascinating. I really loved it. Oh, and I'd love to hear what others have to say. When I was given, I was given a tiara, and so that is a symbol to go boldly,
Oh.
courageously, confidently forward. And it was a program of that weakness of it's hard for me to pinpoint and articulate exactly what that feeling is, but it is something that I've witnessed in my own life holds me back in certain ways. So that was really cool. I loved it. Yes. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
See the power of just a few minutes in something like that with the drum that takes us into it alters our brain waves and that accesses the quantum field within us. This is all within us. Isn't
That's
that
right.
fascinating? Yes.
It
Okay.
really is.
Well, if anyone would like to share, we have our chat box on Zoom and our Q&A box for questions. And if anyone in our Zoom audience would like to ask a question of Julia, have her work with you or talk with you about something in your life or your lineage, you can raise your hand and she's happy to take those questions. But I want to ask you some things. We want to talk about existential questions. There's three of them that
Oh.
Yeah, that we are to
Right.
ask to understand our reality. Did you share one of those already? How much of this is really true? Is that one of them, or are these 3 different?
It
Or
kind
what
of
are
kind
those
of
3 questions?
does
Yes.
relate into, well, I think that we have probably all have asked these questions at some point in our life. The number one is, how did we get here?
Mhm.
Number two is, why are we here? And three is, how shall I live? How shall we live our lives while we are here? And then when we can access that quantum field and understanding our place and our design in these family systems and bringing wholeness and balance back, we're able to understand that who we are begins with our parents. We chose our parents before we even came to this earth. We chose our circumstances in order to experience and to develop certain attributes in our lives. And you talked about how you've realized that coming through your mother's line made you a stronger person.
Mm.
And the experiences that we go through help us to evolve and to grow and expand in ways we probably never would have otherwise. We are really souls having a human experience when we come into this physical form of being in a body. We become awakened more to who we are because of the experiences that we go through. We begin to learn more of who we are and what we're capable of, and we're able to transmute those weaknesses that we perceive to have been passed down and to transmute them into these beautiful, wonderful attributes and strengths, which goes into why we are here. We're here to evolve, we're here to contribute in the evolution in our family consciousness, the collective consciousness. And when we access this field, we get to take a peek through that veil of forgetfulness and just open it up enough to gain the insight of maybe what some of those soul agreements are that we made with our parents and our ancestors. And we can begin to learn the reasons of us being here is directly related to this particular family lineage and these bloodlines. And one of the things that is so beautiful in that we get to discover ourselves through this process as unique beings, unique souls, but we also understand that we are drops in the ocean, that we can be unique and separate and sovereign, and yet still connected to this great big ocean where we're all connected. And that is the new earth paradigm, when we get to be who we are as individuals and still connect to this universal field and wholeness with all that is, and have that level of respect and honor for one another. I remember I had a woman who was conceived out of wedlock, and there was a lot of embarrassment and a lot of shame that her mother went through, and she had the feelings of resentment towards her mother as a child growing up and not feeling wanted. And when she was able to connect in through this process, she said to me, "Oh my goodness, my mother was such a strong person. I never saw her that way before." And it was such a beautiful thing that she was able to say, "Oh my goodness, my mother was just a child, and look how strong she was." And she
Mm.
was able to let go of so much of that anger inside of her. And then, of course, how should we live our lives? That really comes from a place of desire. We look deep down inside of our soul. How do we live our lives? Is that desire that comes up through this? What do I desire in my relationship with my mother? with my relationship with my father, then this circumstance in my life gives us a clue as to how we should live our lives. That desire is born within us, that wants to emerge and be expressed through us and out of us and manifested from within us.
A beautiful process. Thank you so much for sharing that. I know others could go through that process again, listen to it on a replay, and new ancestors will come through because there's so many layers within us. And isn't it interesting
Oh,
that
yeah.
oftentimes we just tend to run and hide from the family, perhaps some of us. I know that's some of the journey, that if we don't feel like we're, I don't know, if we can't understand why we would incarnate in a family like this. This is that deep dive within to truly understand it better, because we did choose our family, and this is the inner work that helps us move this out of our physical bodies in a cellular memory,
Mhm.
right? I mean, it's amazing how much it is connected to the body. Our physical body is literally made up of it. So you work
Mhm.
with sessions with clients and you do one-on-one sessions. Tell us about what that's all about. You have a special offer with those sessions.
Mhm.
What can someone expect with time with you?
Sure. So in my offer, I offer private one-on-one sessions. Usually they're over Zoom and in person for people who live locally. And I'm a hypnotherapist. So what my job is to get you connected to your heart space and to connect down into your soul, just like what we did. And it's about connecting to your inner wisdom and that field of consciousness, because from there, that's really my job, is to open the door and just kind of hold the space and navigate a little bit and just ask the right questions. And then your soul does the work in the journey. It always seems to know where to go. And I'm just kind of the guide on the side that just kind of holds the sacred container and keeps you from maybe going off too far. Or if at times things become overwhelming, I can come in and help provide a sense of comfort for that as well. And so sometimes people will come in expecting to want to work on one thing and their soul ends up in a completely different direction, but that's where it needs to go. And so there's a lot of different avenues that we can go. We could, in my offer, the session that I have is connecting with the younger version of you, your inner child, and providing him or her with the resources that he or she didn't have back when there was a difficult time in your life, and building up that younger part of you into and growing it up into a way that becomes more resourceful in your life, and creating an imprint that is the experience of having what you didn't need when a time was difficult, so that you have that to carry forth into your life in all areas of your life. We can connect with your father's lineage, and connecting with the paternal timeline can heal up relationships with men in general. It can heal up the relationship that you may have with your own masculine side of yourself. And the same thing with your maternal lineage. You can helps heal up so much with your relationships with other women, and the feminine aspects within inside of yourself is amazing process and work, and connecting and understanding what maybe some of these soul agreements were, and to resolve them or create new ones. And I also do some shadow work and pre-life exploration. And so they're really personal, individually spirit-led one-on-one sessions that last about an hour and a half long. And then So the offer that I have is integrating resources to heal the past. And then if you want to continue to work with me, we can do more of the family constellation work as well.
Beautiful. Yes, you would think that there would be a lot of work to do in this arena. So several sessions would be helpful, beneficial, right? And each session is different and quite the journey. All right, thank
Yes.
you. This special offer for everyone is available on the website, and I'm going to drop a link in our chat box as well so everyone can see that and check it out. Let's hear from Mehar. Mehar, I hope I pronounced your name adequately or correctly. You can unmute. Hello.
Hi. Hi, Julia.
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Lauren. How are
Mihar.
you? I love you. Hi. Hi, sweetie. Okay. You were right when we had a last session about a year or two ago. Uh, I got a
I
fire from
remember
my great.
you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So I'm in the midst of everything that's happening in this world, but more in the family. So my great grandmother gave me fire. And I know I had talked to you about her. She would burning coal in her hand. So she presented me that. And right now in the family, everybody just wants to sell the property of my family. And they're attacking me really bad. Last night I fell down from the bed, even though I had not one time, two times, three times grounded myself. So I just want to know, Julie, what is my message or what should I do now?
Well, one of the things
Hello?
that we can work on in the
Uh-huh.
constellation approach is that not just the energy of our parents, but we can explore the energy of the property.
Okay.
And just as we can communicate and explore the nature of this property. You said that you didn't want to sell it, but other people are mad at you. Is that correct?
Yes.
For
I'll
not
tell you
wanting
why. Because,
to let
yeah,
it go?
because over, yeah, because in that property, we have an altar that everybody, all the prophets have visited. Because my sister who passed away was a medium, and she would literally, they would come over her. So that's why it is important. I'm in America, they all in India. I want to move that from that house and then we'll see what happens. So you're right. Maybe we need to clear that property.
Yeah, we can speak to the energy of the property as well and explore the message and the purpose that
Mm-hmm.
it has in the family.
Mm-hmm.
I'm feeling that there is definitely a sacredness that is contained about it that needs to stay in the family. I feel like that
Yes.
is very, very important that be
Oh,
protected.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After the what you did, I am feeling like I can touch the cloud. I can fly,
Oh,
and I'm not going to let that go.
one.
Yeah, she gave me the
Oh,
fire. I
so
felt it
wonderful.
from head to toe. And when I fell down, also, I stayed there and I said, what message is this? You know? So this was the message I was supposed to get, I
Mm.
guess. Yeah. I love you, Julie.
Oh, that's
Thank
so
you.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, it's good to hear from you again, Mihar.
Yes, I will get in touch. If I, Bobby, get a package from Lauren and get in touch with you, okay? Thank you, Lauren. I bow my
Okay,
head to both
good.
of you with humbleness. Thank you.
Oh,
Oh, thank you.
Thank
thank
you.
Mm.
you, Mahar. Thanks for
Bye.
sharing as well. It really helps us understand the personal processes and the journeys. Interesting. Well, okay. Thank you, Julie, for being here, Julia. And I wanted to make sure that we also got to something else that you wish to talk about today. And this is the 4 levels of conscience. Can you share those 4 levels?
Oh, sure. I can go through that really quick. It's simple. What that is that you think of like kind of like a bubble or a covering. So we all have an individual conscience. So that is a representation of ourselves and everybody that's really close to us, like our cast of characters, like our parents or siblings, partners, children, friends, relatives. And each of these levels have different standards. So that might include the standards of that unit and what we grew up in individually. And then we have like another bubble around that, which is the family conscience. So, and all of the effects that get passed down on us, that holds their personal histories, life events, fates, all of the shoulds and the standards that I talked about before, like this loyalty that I felt connecting with my family's expectations. So that could be things like not marrying outside of your religion or staying within a certain line of profession. This is what our family has always done. This is our profession, livelihood that we have always lived by. And then around that bubble is another layer. It's called the collective or social conscience. So that's the shared beliefs, the ideas, the moral attitudes of the society that affects us. So that could be like currently right now, it has a lot to do with like gay rights and gender preferences, or just things that are in the collective conscience or the social shared beliefs. And then we have another layer, like a bubble outside of that. And that is the spirit mind conscience. It goes beyond the realms of all of them. And it can be difficult to separate yourself from any of these other layers and to look at yourself outside of all of these conditionings, such as family, religion, your personal identity. Who am I if I'm not a mother? Or who am I if I'm not a father? Or I'm in this career position? And it's a way of being able to connect with and understand ourselves outside of all of these realms. It's the spirit mind conscience, and it's unbound and it's free. It doesn't follow the individual or family conscience. So that might include maybe marrying into a different race or a different religion or things like that. And sometimes when we step outside of these cultural conditionings, there can be a bit of guilt, and when we're exploring who am I outside of these. So just think of them as 4 different layers wrapped around each other that we move through, that our lives are influenced by on all of these different levels.
Yes. Yes,
And we
very
could
good.
focus on different ones, different parts of different conscience levels in our work.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here today and for sharing this incredible, deep inner work that you help people with, all your clients. It is how we build new earth, by getting rid of the baggage, healing from that baggage, and certainly being at peace within our families, being at peace with the family lineage. I know I'm not the only one that released a little bit of resentment today, and that's wonderful. That's really, I can feel it. Just like Mahar mentioned, she felt very different as well from her session with you. Wonderful. Well, thank you. Again, we invite our listeners to check out your special offer. And if it resonates with the heart, check it out and sign up for a session. We want to thank everyone for being here. And Julia, as we say goodbye, I just want to give you a moment for any final thoughts.
So my final thoughts is to have compassion for ourselves and to have compassion for our families, rather than looking at the experiences that we grew up as bad or awful or something to get rid of. I know that I've been through that too, where I just wanted to cut off, not have anything to do with my family. But the more we understand them, the more we understand ourselves and our place in the world. And it's really the only true path of being able to find peace is to resolve the things that we disowned or disliked about them, because they are us. And that, I mean, we would be disowning parts of ourselves. And to just, embrace that and have compassion for yourself and for everything that they have gone through, and to reach that place of gratitude. And so I think that's the really important message that I want to leave with, that there is hope, and there is peace, and there is great power in being able to do this work interpersonally, on a one-on-one basis is really important. You can't really do so much just taking a course or watching a video. This is deep work, and it doesn't have to take you out. It can maybe feel a little frightening, a little scary at first, but the other side is a sense of beautiful peace waiting at the other end. Yeah.
Yes, the beautiful peace waiting at the other end. And I particularly liked the feeling of the future lineage coming forward. That absolutely inspires
I
us in new
know.
ways, doesn't it? Wow. Wow.
Yes.
That's juicy. And we thank you for that. And we can feel the hope. And that gives us such great purpose. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And again, if you would like a session with Julia, you may do so. Thank you for listening, and thank you for sharing your bright light, everyone. We are New Earth, and we love you. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you for listening to this quantum conversation, and thank you for dancing with us to the cosmic heart. As we raise our own vibration, we raise the vibration of the planet. This show is dedicated to you and all awakening hearts, as we are here to shine our bright light and amplify our love. Access all quantum conversations, special offers from our guests, and online healing retreats by visiting acoustichealth.com. I'm Loren Gailey, and from my sacred heart to yours, I honor your magnificent love and light. We leave you now with music from the universe. Music literally created by the universe, as musical notes were assigned to mathematical equations. The result is this beautiful music, available at acoustichealth.com. Namaste.